The Whirlwind episode 1 starts with a flashback to 7.5 hours before the arrest of the current Prime Minister, Park Dong-ho. Dong-ho is accused of accepting hundreds of bribes, worth millions of won from a certain Mr. Choi. The prosecutor is expected to arrest Dong-ho. According to the media, the prosecutor has enough evidence to prove their case, and many are calling for the acceleration of the hearing. Simultaneously, we see Dong-ho driving to the Blue House to secretly meet with President Jang Tae-joon. At the back of our minds, we assumed that Dong-jo would beg for mercy, but we were in for quite a shock. It turns out that President Jang Tae-joon framed Dong-ho to take the fall and save his son. Even though Dong-ho has been nothing but loyal during their long-time friendship, President Jang Tae-joon is determined to make him the scapegoat. He feels Dong-jo should have turned a blind eye to his crimes and those of his sons. As such, he is hoping that Dong-ho will take the blame quietly and not fight back. On the other hand, Dong-ho has a plan and knows that there is no point in trying to get sentimental with President Jang Tae-joon or plead for mercy. He once saved President Jang Tae-joon's life when he had a cardiac attack and knows of his underlying health issues. While talking with the president, Dong-ho switches the president's vape and gives him one with substances that will lead to cardiac arrest. He then walks out and meets the chief of staff, Yoon-suk, and pleads his innocence to her. Afterwards, Yoon-suk talks with the president and informs him that the prosecution is already looking into Dong-ho as per his request. However, Yoon-suk doubts they will find him guilty. As they talk, President Jang Tae-joon falls to the ground and is rushed to the Armed Forces Capital Hospital. Meanwhile, Dong-ho returns to his office and is met by his concerned secretary, Jong-yeon. Dong-ho assures her that they did what must be done to save the country and now have to focus on the next plan. Dong-ho starts working on his speech, awaiting the call from the Blue House. Unfortunately, the Blue House calls to inform them that President Jang Tae-joon is still alive but in critical condition. Suddenly, they are forced to pivot their plans since Dong-ho can immediately become the acting president. Elsewhere, Soo-jin, the deputy prime minister, rushes to the hospital to stay by the First Lady's side. At the same time, she plots with Kang Sang-woon, Daejin Group vice chairman, to keep the president alive and arrest Dong-ho for their personal benefit. If President Jang Tae-joon dies, she and Sang-woon will end up in prison for corruption. As soon as everyone arrives at the hospital, the doctors notify them that President Jang Tae-joon needs surgery, but his survival rate is low. After the doctor's announcement, Soo-jin asks the First Lady to order the doctors to prolong President Jang Tae-joon's surgery until 9 a.m. This gives her time to mobilize the prosecution to arrest Dong-ho the following morning, so he won't take over. Aware of this, Dong-ho reaches out to Chairman Kang, a strong politician with many ties. Chairman Kang has always had his eye on the presidential seat, but is always losing the race. Dong-ho promises to give him a better chance at winning the next election if he helps him. As morning dawns, the First Lady, Soo-jin, and the Chief of Staff are surprised when Chairman Kang brings highly reputed doctors to observe the surgery. The operating doctors get cold feet and end the surgery early. Han Cheol, the Seoul district prosecutor, arrives with a warrant for arrest. If anything, he confronts Soo-jin and announces that as long as the president is unable to fulfill his duties, he is taking over as the acting president. In other words, Han Cheol can't arrest him since a president can't be charged during his tenure, and that law applies to him as an acting president. On the other side of the hospital, the doctors hold a conference and announce the surgery went well, but President Jang Tae-joon is in a coma. Outside, Dong-ho speaks to reporters, assuring the nation he will take over the reins until President Jang Tae-joon recovers. Dong-ho is perfectly aware that he doesn't have enough time. He faces great opposition, and the fraud accusation is doing him no favors. He has a month or so before the opposition requests for another election if President Jang Tae-joon. If President Jang Tae-joon wakes up, he has even less time to prove his innocence and arrest Sang-woon and Soo-jin. With time not on his side, Dong-ho meets with an old friend, Sang-suk, a former prosecutor. He and Gi-tae, another prosecutor, had tried to take down the Daejin Group, but it didn't end well. Sang-suk has long given up his spirit to fight, but Dong-ho inspires him to find it again. They agree that Gi-tae's sacrifice shouldn't be in vain. Soo-jin meets with Sang-woon and convinces him to rethink his strategy of going after Dong-ho using a fake witness and the media. She advises him to contact the opposition leaders and force Dong Ho to resign as the acting president. They also ask Han Cheol to plant some evidence in Zhang Haiyan's belongings, framing Dong Ho further. The media reports that Dong Ho ordered his secretary to hide the funds for him. However, since the evidence is fake, Dong Ho and his team have a hard time proving their innocence. Upon hearing the news, the National Assembly votes to kick Dong Ho out of the Blue House. His only hope is convincing the cabinet members, but Su Jin is one step ahead of him. She invites the cabinet to a lunch date so they don't meet with Dong Ho. Later, she sets a meeting with Dong Ho and explains that she will take their fight all the way. She believes no one will side with Dong Ho, as it will be political suicide. At the Blue House, Yoon Suk grows suspicious as to what led to President Jang Tae-jun's sudden cardiac arrest. She takes his vape and asks for an analysis of it. The doctor discovers that the vape contains new drugs that are dangerous to someone with heart issues like the president. It becomes apparent that someone tried to assassinate the president. Yoon Suk quickly puts the pieces together and realizes only Dong Ho could have pulled this off. She calls for a meeting with Dong Ho at the Blue House, and the latter comes clean. He gives her a recording of his admission of guilt and asks for a month to deal with the corruption before turning himself in. Yoon Suk agrees to the deal and changes her loyalty from President Jang Tae-jun to Dong Ho. To help him, she asks the First Lady to call a dinner meeting with the cabinet members and announce that the president briefly woke up. According to Yoon Suk, the president requested Dong Ho to take over. As such, she orders the cabinet to support Dong Ho and challenges anyone to deny President Jang Tae-jun his request. As expected, Su Jin asks to verify the statement, but Yoon Suk quickly puts her in her place. With everyone in agreement, Dong Jo takes over the meeting and dismisses Su Jin as a cabinet member.